everyone, and welcome to Our Ventura TV. I'm Sandra Siepak. On today's show, we're welcoming Bill Ayub. He is the Ventura County Sheriff here in our community, and we would like to welcome him to the show.
Thank you for that. I very much appreciate the opportunity to be here and to tell you a little bit about what's been going on with us over the last year.
Very good. And I know that the current impact of COVID-19 has created a lot of changes for so many of us here in the community, and especially here at the Sheriff's Department. So we'd like you to tell us some of the things that you've been dealing with and some of the changes and precautions you've had to make.
Sure. Appreciate the opportunity again. So the Sheriff's Office, and why would people that live in Ventura be concerned about the Sheriff's Office? We police cities around the county. Ventura has its own police department. We do run the courts as bailiffs and the security measures that take place there. We also run the jails in the county. Of course, we have the main jail at the government center in Ventura. We also run a crime laboratory, a dispatch center, detective bureaus, aviation program, and a massive volunteer program. So we have about 1,250 employees and then about 1,000 volunteers that actually do work for public safety throughout the community under the direction of the Sheriff's Office. So having a large workforce of essential workers, these folks that just can't stop working,
yes,
it was a big challenge throughout this time. In some ways, and I spent a lot of time trying to motivate our folks throughout the last year about it, doing a very difficult job in a very uncertain climate. And of course, you throw in over the last summer and still now a lot of political concerns in the community related to racial justice, related to political divides that we're seeing across the nation. The job has been very complex over the last year. So a lot of the things we focused on over the last year were ways in which to keep our staff safe. We stopped a lot of our volunteer programs. Many of them involve elders in the community that have already served careers and are giving back through volunteerism. But we've canceled many of those programs because they were essential to our operations and our overarching goal is to keep our folks safe. Okay. Folks that could not telework or could not forego their duties for the last year, like many of our volunteers, come into the workplace, and we spent a lot of time working on sanitizing procedures, about the donning and doffing of protective equipment. And you remember very early on, we just didn't know what this virus was going to do, how dangerous it was or was not. And so there was a lot of anxiety amongst our employees about what's going to happen if I get sick. How can I quarantine? Is the department going to give me leave time? And so forth. So we worked through a lot of those concerns with just the employees. In our patrol force, you all know that patrol deputies are just like police officers in Ventura. Yes. They share cars, they share workstations in the stations. They have to touch people. They have to go into people's homes and touch their clothing, go through their belongings sometimes when they're doing search. Infectious disease has always been a problem for police officers, especially deputy sheriffs that man the jails as well. Had a really good supply of latex gloves, of N95 masks, of eye protection. So we were able to implement stricter procedures for wearing those things in the community. We also implemented something that we don't like to do, and that was handling some calls for service over the telephone. We didn't want to get our staff exposed to somebody with COVID, nor did we want to expose the public to our staff that may have it and may bring it with them to their home or to their place of business. So many calls were over the telephone.
And did you also make some changes to in-person visits from the public? Could the public still come into the sheriff's station at this point or not?
We kept most of our public lobbies open.
You did? Okay. Okay.
It was on a limited basis. We have a lot of pedestrian traffic that comes into our various stations. We have 6 stations throughout the community, and then a resident deputy post in Lockwood. And in some cases, there was a telephone in the lobby that the person could communicate what their needs were.
I see.
And we'd very oftentimes have them wait outside for a deputy to arrive, and then they could maintain distance. And in the outdoor environment, less likelihood of exposure and so forth. So there was some changes there. We, of course, got many calls related to violations of health orders.
Oh,
We saw
okay.
bicycle without a mask. We saw people standing too close talking on a street corner, or some other more serious reports. And so, and this is totally alien to us. We've never been in an environment. We don't have a report to go back on and look at what happened in the last pandemic and how we handled those things. So this was all kind of spur of the moment, creating policy and directions for a large workforce spread out over 1,750 square miles to follow.
Right. And as it is, the Sheriff's Department, no day is ever the same as a normal type of situation. In this case, things were completely not normal. So
you're absolutely right. And the other business that we normally deal with was still going on.
Okay.
So yeah, this completely new environment and a number of issues to address, and still regular business occurred.
Okay.
One of the biggest things that we did was deal with our inmate population in the jails. And of course, that's a confined environment. There's recirculated air. That's part of the security systems in the jails.
Okay.
We implemented a process by which we manually purge the air periodically over the last year, focused our employees into one entrance and one exit from both of our, closed one facility, and the other two facilities, Todd Road Jail and the main jail, one point of entry and exit for all employees. And that was so that we could ensure there was medical checks that took place before they came into work. Okay. We said that our greatest concern is an employee coming in with COVID, not knowing that he or she has it, and then giving it to an inmate that they have to work in close proximity to. Right. So infectious disease, as I said before, always a concern in there. So we were well prepared for this.
As some of the restrictions begin to be lifted now, what will take place? Will you continue what you're doing, or will there be some more changes as things start to be a little bit more normal than they were? What will happen now in the Sheriff's Department?
Sure. The vast majority of our employees have all been vaccinated.
Oh, good.
So
okay.
Big comforting thing for me as the sheriff, and knowing a certain level of protection. We are still working through a lot of the sanitizing procedures, the personal protective equipment wearing. Okay. That's important until we get a change in direction from our county and state and federal leadership. We stopped our in-person visitation in the jails for a period of time. That's a big deal. Yes. The inmates, being in jail is tough, to be sure. Having that connection to loved ones is really important. We recognize that. And so we've reinstituting the inmate visiting very, very soon. And so that's something that helps quell the anxiety amongst our inmate population, which is good for us. Okay. So we expect to gradually, kind of like turning on a faucet very slowly, gradually reopen things and get back to business as usual. Hopefully, like good.
And as you mentioned, your department is very important, here in the community. You do many, many different things, and there's many different avenues that people could be a part of. If someone is interested in becoming a sheriff, what would you say to them? And how is the process for them to become part of your department? Tell us about that.
Sure. The job is a challenge, no question. There's dangers, there's shift work. You're not going to get rich doing this job, but the satisfaction from saving a life, from participating in making the community safer, there's nothing like it. And I would encourage anybody that has the fortitude, that it's got a history of good decision making, and who wants to serve their community and give back, come on over and check us out. You can find more information on our website, VenturaSheriff.org. And there's a ton of information on there. And we welcome walk-ins to the government center to come and chat with a background investigator about what the department's like, what the academy process is. Okay. To that material you can find online at VenturaSheriff.org.
And real quick, you mentioned your volunteers. Will those volunteers now be coming back as things start to open up again?
Yes, we just talked about that. Many of them were able to receive the the vaccinations with the first responders. And so we're excited to bring them back. We have almost 1,000 people who volunteer, search and rescue, policing. It's an amazing thing. And for those people, they're also giving and love to serve the community. It's a big thing for them to be able to come back and do that. So we're excited to see that happen.
Very good. Well, thank you so much, Ventura County Sheriff Bill Ayub, for sharing so much with us today about all that you do here in the community. We appreciate so much some of the things that you have shared with us today, and look forward to going on the website. If somebody needs more information, it's there for them to take a look at.
Thanks very much.
Very good. And thank all of you for joining us today on the show. Look forward to seeing you next time. Bye, everyone.